You're listening to Sew Organised Style podcast. Sew Organised Style is brought to you by myself, Maria Thea Harris, Susan Goodwin, and Anne Wally. Silk, lingerie, and couture sewing are some of the topics we touched on when we spent some time with Tatyana Anderson of Tatyana Designs in Melbourne recently. Today we're visiting Tatyana Designs, and Tatyana does bridal lingerie from scratch. So she sources everything. She sources the fabric, she sources the designs, the lace designs as well.
We also do our own embroidery.
So, and when you see her designs, you can see how amazing the embroidery is and how unique it is. So it's not run-of-the-mill. You can't find it anywhere else. It's what she's designed, and it's for her clients as well. So she does client work too. And Anne is here with me.
Yes.
Anne's been really good in getting Tatyana to speak to us today because of the love of what we do with our sewing, and also through, is it the
ASG?
ASG?
What are you doing with the ASG at the moment? At the moment, I'm reading newsletter.
Oh, wow.
With newsletter went out today, so I'm busily reading through and going, oh, God, it's long.
The August one?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot in there. Yeah. And there's sew along happening as well. They're doing another sew along.
A sew along
for this time, the sheer fabrics.
Okay. So that's really good. It blends in with what you're doing.
Well, I signed off and said I'm coming.
So anyone can join in the sew along? Do you actually have to sew along if you join and you get caught up? I'm a bit concerned that I might not.
Well, generally what happens, you have a week per step.
Oh.
So you should be able to get a little bit done. We had, for pleated garment sewing, we had people who started 2 months after we started, and it seems to be going all right. So you don't have to. It helps.
Yeah.
And it is trying to skill develop within the ASG too.
Yes, it is. It's very much focusing on members learning techniques that they wouldn't learn otherwise.
Okay.
It's a more unusual techniques, like we did the pleated garments, now the sheer garment. A lot of people telling me how scared they are to even think about. And of course, everybody going, people who've been doing it for a while will go, that's all right. It's not that scary. So that was good. I'm glad somebody picked it up and actually going to run so along with that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that leads us into finding out where silk and lace fits in with what you love to do and what you are doing.
Basically, this is a really funny story. I was getting married.
Yes.
And I wanted an outfit for my honeymoon, and I went through all the shops and I haven't found anything I wanted. And by that stage, I kind of did, oh my goodness, I should be able to make it myself. I've been in the fashion industry by about 30 years by that stage. So I thought, I can do it. And then once I've done my own sketches and my own design and started sourcing fabric, I went to a lingerie shop on Melbourne Road. And I talked to Susie, who provided me with lingerie for yonks.
Okay.
And I said, Susie, this is my idea. What do you think? And she wrote me a check on the spot. And she said, here, there's your money. When you get it done, come back.
Wow.
So I had enormous support from Susie for a very long time. And basically that's how it all started. It started with, I want beautiful, elegant, sexy, but not aggressive, sexy lingerie, sleepwear. Something to wear around, something to be very, very delicate about, and to be gorgeous in.
Yeah.
And that's how it's all started, and that's where it's all now happening for now 15 years.
That's great. When you said you didn't want it to be aggressive, what do you see as being aggressive when it comes to lingerie?
Well, a lot of times you can see that some of the lingerie coming with a very heavy fetish influence.
Yeah.
And of course we're not going there. And we probably could if we spend enough time, but I don't really find it comfortable area for myself.
Yep.
I'd rather be girly or very, pretty embroidery, pretty laces, pretty things.
Good.
And glamorous.
Glamorous.
Yes, that early 30s in Hollywood. They buy a skirt, they're really hugging figure, silks that just, drops beautifully, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And you can see from the samples that the fabrics that you've got have beautiful drape to them, and they're very soft. Plus you choose colours. It seems that you choose colours that are very pretty and soft as well.
Yeah, we have done a navy collection, which was our Ocean Goddess.
Mm-hmm.
But even that, we tried to keep it on a lighter navy. Mm-hmm. And the only one collection we've done was in black. And that was very much a tribute to my grandmother. Oh. When my grandmother passed away, that was a collection that I made as a tribute to her life.
Okay.
Because she has been a huge influence in what I'm doing.
And was black
Black for us, it's a morning color.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I was thinking.
I've done the black collection, but what we did, we embroidered a lot of different, very soft, creamy and very soft green colors for orchids.
Oh.
So there's a lot of that. From the distances, look like it's all black and white. As you get closer, you start seeing colors. And again, these collections designed to be worn in your home, in your bedroom. So the person looking at you is very close, so they can see those little tiny fine details. It's not designed to be walked on a street or not even on catwalks. We do run them on a catwalks, but they're really designed to be very intimate collections.
And not paraded to the general public.
No.
Yep, got it. I think I got that. Yeah.
Very glamorous.
Very glamorous.
Audrey Hepburn and she didn't, maybe Grace Kelly.
Grace Kelly probably close.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
Yeah, and that's what we do. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
It's got the vibe too. Like, tell me about, I have to ask.
Yeah.
You've designed something, there's a fitting going on, and then the lady puts the outfit on. What happens to the person when they have that on? What happens?
Look, when they put our sleepwear, they become very girly. Everybody suddenly become very, very girlish. They kind of get slightly giggly, a little bit flirty.
So the transformation happens.
Yes, because those garments really are designed to do that.
Wow.
And, yes, they are quite open and quite revealing, but we try not to reveal too much either. There's a little bit of secret behind all those things. If we're using fabric that is really transparent, like silk muslins, there will be 2 or 3 layers.
Oh, okay.
So, yes, there is a silhouette of the woman in it, and you can see, but you're not going to see more than that. So it still hides a little bit. It's not all out in your face.
So what happens after that experience? And you've seen someone come through the door, they've put on the garments. Do they leave feeling more like a woman?
We try to make them feel special.
Yeah.
We really do put a lot of effort into making a person feeling special. And look, sometimes we succeed, sometimes we don't. Sometimes people don't respond. But I think in general, people really enjoy the experience. It's a very special, we fuss around. We do all these things.
That's good.
And I enjoy all that. I'm not doing it because I have to. I really do enjoy fussing around my ladies, making sure they're looking glamorous, walking out feeling like, $1 million, if we can use that expression.
But even if someone doesn't respond, I suppose it's something that they're not used to feeling. It might be, but the translation's still happening inside the woman, and it might set off this ripple effect that you might not see today, but maybe will definitely be a change, which I think that's nice. Nice to feel like that and have that vibe.
Yeah.
It's very important to be a woman and feel like that.
Feel like it, yeah, because sometimes in our everyday life we do run around, and you forget. Like I put high heels today, and my mum looked at me and said, "You're wearing high heels." I'm going, "Of course I'm wearing high heels." But you're going to carry vacuum cleaner. Yeah.
It's how you wanted to feel for the day, so you put the heels on.
Yeah, that's it. I want to feel glamorous today.
And they're gorgeous heels, I might add.
I know.
They are really gorgeous.
We went past some shoe stores this morning.
Oh.
But they're better than what we
yes.
saw.
Yes, I kind of would expect that from Tatyana.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's good. My question is, and this is a personal one, because last night when we were talking to family, there's one of the nieces and her fiancé, they've got their wedding happening next year. So I mentioned what you're doing to, the niece. And so her fiancé looks up, all of a sudden he was like, oh, and he was tapping her shoulder. And I said, it's okay. I'll sort something out and don't worry. So how would you go about, so my question is, how would you go about designing something for someone who's actually not here in Melbourne? What do you do?
That's okay. Basically what I would do, I would ask for a few photos.
Yep.
Because I'd like to have a look and see what style this person prefers. I'll need some measurements.
Yep.
I'm hopping.
No.
I'm looking at you because
I'll
hopefully you can do that.
Don't you worry about the whole weekend.
Often what I would do, I would send swatches either to the bride or to the person who's ordering. So again, it will work one way or the other.
Yep.
Beautiful. While you're here, you can have a look.
Yep.
Then I'll do sketches.
Yep.
Again, I'll show them to relevant person. And then from there, we make it.
Okay.
And then we pack it into a box, tissues box, another box and everything, and we send it to you.
Great. Okay. Because today it just happens to be that while they're here in Melbourne, she's got 2 bridal salon appointments.
Fantastic.
Which she's doing with her mum and sister-in-law to be. So I thought, okay, I think I can do this part of it for them. And that's great. So look, that's great. So if someone isn't here in Melbourne, they can contact you.
Yeah, definitely.
They can send images, look at colours and swatches and then design and then go from there. That's good.
The other option, they can always go to your website and see if they can find something there that we already have made.
Good.
Because sometimes people see it and go, yep, that's it. That's a perfect garment. That's what I wanted. Yeah. And that's also happened.
Okay. That's great. That's good to know. Thanks. That answers my questions on
my pleasure. How it all happens.
It's all happening. When you and I first met was in Brisbane.
Yes.
Met at Susan Cowley's couture lace skirt workshop.
Yes, that was fantastic.
And when I saw your work, it was the pale blue white. That was amazing because I've only ever concentrated on bold, whereas yours was so delicate.
It continues with my delicate.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah. With your couture sewing development, is that something that you've picked up overnight or is that something that you've worked on for a while?
I'm a 3rd generation couturier. I started sewing very, very young because I've always been surrounded by fabric, by people who sew. My grandmother did a lot of stuff to order. My auntie then continued that, and family basically specialized in, funny enough, in evening wear. So I've been in couture environment and couture sewing for 45 years now.
Okay.
It is definitely not something you can pick up overnight. It is understanding the quality. Yes, you can make something, and when I started, probably that's when it was very pronounced. I want to wear something, and I want to wear it tomorrow. So I would make a dress overnight and go, Grandma, look, I made a dress. And of course, what would happen? Grandma would turn it inside out, look at the inside and go, and what is this? So, that kind of, I'm very proud I've done it so quickly, very quickly turned into, yes, but you've done it, but your inside has to be just as beautiful as your outside. Your stitching, your finishing is just as important as what you wear. And fitting never been a problem because I had so many people around me who could do fitting. So I didn't have to suffer through what a lot of people go through, enabled to fit themselves, especially in the back. I always had people who could do that. But that finishing of the garment, that polishing it, last little steps to polish it, that's what Grandma instilled into me, and that's why I was saying that she has been very influential in what I'm doing now.
Those finishing techniques, energy that you had when you first started sewing and doing the construction, I think a lot of people can identify with because you think, yay, I've put a dress together. But I know it's the insides and the finishing that take a lot of time, but they also take a lot of, like, hand stitching, but knowing what to use for that particular piece is something that takes a while to learn and to keep learning, isn't it?
Yes, and these days there's a lot of new material, there's a lot of new things that we didn't have when we started. I mean, I started sewing in Russia, there wasn't much at all. So, and you learn to handle, your hand learns that this is a fabric that will do certain drapes, and this is fabric that doesn't matter what you do to it, it's not going to. You know, yes, you can force things, you can put all sorts of stabilizers to achieve things, but sometimes it is so much better to listen to the fabric and just go, well, this fabric really probably be better as a corset rather than a skirt, or that way around, you know. And a lot of conversations happens in the studio when I talk to my fabric. But fabric, I need a corset, and fabric goes, no, I'm a skirt.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, it's a bit crazy.
It's a fun conversation to have.
It is.
But then how does that leads me to another point. When you're having that conversation to the fabric, at the point where you're having to plan the outfit and buy the fabric and you're doing it online, what challenges do you face there?
Yes. That's when you really need to know your fabrics and the handle of the fabric. Because you can see something very pretty, and I have seen that just recently, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous fabric, 400 GSM. That's to cover the couch.
Yes.
But again, that's where you need to build up your knowledge about what does GSM, you know.
What does that mean?
What does it mean? What does it mean in a number? What does 60 GSM versus 100 GSM versus 300 GSM will give me? What can I do out of this fabric? Another thing that people often do on the websites, they show you the drape, like they would twist the fabric or they will drape it on the mannequin. That's also a very good indication what that fabric will do.
Yes.
What that fabric will naturally do versus what can we force it to do. And it's interesting, in couture, there's a lot of times, I wouldn't say it's forcing, but it's more of a supporting of the fabric.
Yep.
And I think when we were doing the guipure skirt, it was first time probably for me, I have seen how many layers actually go into a guipure skirt.
Yeah.
Because I've done guipure skirts where it's basically 2 layers.
Exactly.
And suddenly I was introduced to all these layers, and I understood how much more effective, how much more practical it is.
It is, isn't it?
Yes. And the same thing with French jackets. You know, how many layers actually go into those jackets to make them as comfortable as they are, to make them like jacket that really feels like a cardigan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have a better appreciation for nice cotton poplins
now
because of that. And also getting good silk organza.
Oh, yes.
I would never have touched that in my life until, you know, we had Susan's course, and she's running us through all of these ways of, you know, building the layers. And it makes perfect sense, but you've got to go through that.
You have, and what I think happens, often you're not going to stumble across that yourself. Somebody have to show you or talk about it before you kind of go, oh yes, I can see the difference. And what I often do with people, if I'm teaching, I would pick up a silk and go, this is your silk without organza. Now let's put organza in. This is your exactly same silk with organza. Now let's put another layer. This is your now silk, organza, and lining. And you can see how the texture and the drape of the fabric changes. It becomes more luxurious. It becomes more, there's more volume, there's more hold, there's more shape. Suddenly it is so much more than a little tiny piece of fabric you started with.
Yeah, and then it's not just something that's hanging off your waist. That shape is there and it's very defined, and it's a good way of seeing how building up those layers gives you exactly what it is you're wearing, and it's not just something that you bought. It's not a ready-to-wear garment, so you know you can see the thought that's gone into it, the technology and the techniques that people have put together to do that.
How does it feel? Like you've both done the course, you've made garments, and you've worn the garments from Susan's classes.
Yep.
How do the garments feel when you put them on and you're actually wearing them? Has it spoilt you from forever? Which is a problem.
Well, I don't buy a lot of ready-made clothes, and probably because I've been sewing for so long that there's almost, it's strange to walk in a shop and buy something. The stuff that I made with Susan, it's definitely very luxurious.
Yes,
you put it on and you feel the luxury.
Yep, yeah, and it's not just the luxury, but I feel more confident, and I know that it's got a lot of thought behind it, but it actually fits you in the right places. And I learned, that my left and right hip are not in the same line. So I actually now have a better pattern for a pencil skirt, which I sort of knew but couldn't figure out. But through, working through Susan's class and getting her expertise, I would pay for that class again and again.
Yeah.
Because it's value. And she's from a couture sewing background, so she lives and breathes it. So it's lovely when she comes to Australia. Yeah.
Yes.
Now tell me, Tatyana, you've got classes that you teach. What do you teach?
Well, what we teach at the moment, the biggest classes I teach is silk and lace. So lace trimmed bias cut camisoles and French knickers. We're going to start teaching couture sewing, so I'm going to open up another 2 Melbourne couture groups.
That's great.
So yeah, and that will be basically people can do either their own projects, and I'm there to help, to guide, or if they need help with fittings, that's another one that I can provide help. We're also going to teach beginners, and what we calling by beginners, real beginners, but with the view that they will eventually join our couture classes. So we will be teaching them all the couture techniques straight from the beginning, the way I was taught.
Good.
The way I was taught. No, you can't sew on pins.
So there'd be a lot of people that would be interested and they would want to get in before your class is filled up. So do you have an email or somewhere where you could put an expression of interest to say you would?
The website has registration form.
Right.
You can just register. As I keep telling people, I promise not to send too many newsletters because I just don't have enough time. But when there's new classes, I tend to advertise to everybody who's on my list. Also Instagram and Facebook.
Oh, good.
Great.
So I try to spread it out and make sure people know that it's happening.
So they'd be crazy not to sign up, because if that's something they're interested in,
exactly,
you would want to be one of the first to know about it so you don't miss out.
Yeah, if people feel like a couture sewing is what they wanted to do, then we definitely welcome them. Some people may find that what we're teaching is a little bit too top end.
Yep.
That's fine. Not everybody have to join me in my high-end sewing and everything. That's perfectly okay.
Yep.
So we came on a little tram trip to
my studio. Yep.
So whereabouts is yours? Is this where you would do the classes?
No, the classes will be done in another location, also on St Kilda Road.
Oh, right.
Couple of tram stops closer to the city, so I think it's stop 27.
So, okay. So it's a case of you don't have to drive into the city, you don't have to park your car, you can just get public transport and it's right to the door from the start of it. That's handy, isn't it? Do they have to bring their own sewing machines or what happens?
At the moment, we do ask people to bring their sewing machines, especially if they're beginners, because they need to also learn how to use their machine. There's no point using my machines.
True.
But we will have 2 or 3 machines as a backup. So if somebody can't bring them, if somebody coming interstate or overseas, we have people coming from New Zealand quite often.
Oh, wow.
So if they're coming, they don't have to drag it with them. We have few machines that we can lend out.
Lovely. And I suppose the one thing I always find funny is that when someone brings their machine, and they haven't
brought
done
the cord,
or they haven't used it for a couple of years, and it's a big surprise. Maybe to work on that machine before you come.
Maybe.
Let's get it serviced.
Well, what we generally say again, look, when you're packing, this is your checklist. Your machine, your cord, your pedal, your user manual.
Oh, yes. That's a
because
good one.
I don't know all the machines. And yes, I have a general understanding of how a machine works. Yeah. But really, a lot of machines have their own very fiddly settings, and they will do a particular stitch under different conditions.
Yes.
So it's very handy if people bring their own user manual. We also have oils in the school. So if anything needs to be oiled, because again, I just listen for the sound.
Yeah.
If it suddenly started clunking, it needs to be oiled. So I can, those sort of basic things we can do internally.
And that way you get a great result.
Well, yes, you do want to, know your machine and have it in a very good shape before you start using it.
And maybe a new needle.
A few needles would be good.
Yes.
Again, I do keep spares for people who forgot, but generally needles. And when we do the lace trimmed camisoles, I always tell people you need to bring new needle, completely new needle, and it has to be 60. If you can't find 60, bring 70, but 60 is a better.
60.
Because you are going to use silk. You are going to use very fine lace. We don't want to make big, ugly holes in it. So, the same thing I tell people about scissors. Please sharpen them.
Yes.
And for Industry Day, for Australia Sewing Guild, Industry Day, we will get somebody to sharpen scissors.
I've got 4 pairs that I think might be coming along with me. Won't that be beautiful?
Lucky you
Fantastic.
guys.
Yeah. Well, we have a guy who comes to studio.
Yeah.
And he comes probably once a year and does all our scissors because, we have about 6 pairs as well. So I thought, wouldn't that be useful for SG to be able to turn up? And it happens on the day. You turn up, you give it to the person, he sharpens it, you take it back, you pay, you go home.
I love that because then you don't have to go back 2 days later and maybe spend more money at the fabric store,
Oh.
You know how that rolls.
Yes.
Yeah, it can be addictive.
Bit of a trap.
Somebody just been to Craft and Quilt show.
Yes.
And I told myself, I don't need any more fabric.
What did you get?
Yeah, that's what you told yourself.
What did I get? I got a beautiful Japanese silk wool blend.
Oh,
okay.
God. What colour?
Grey and orange.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about Anne going, ooh.
Don't show Anne.
No, it's not here. You can't see it.
Lovely.
And a piece of cotton, pure cotton with a French, kind of very French blue and white design on it.
Gosh.
That's going to be summer dress.
How
great.
Gorgeous.
I don't know which summer.
I wasn't going to ask which summer. Never
know.
ask which summer.
No.
Oh, wow.
Because Melbourne Couture Group, we get together once a month and people used to sew here and we're now going to start using school. And we did few workshops where we called them unfinished UFOs, unfinished objects. And this time I posted and I said, look, given how little sewing we've done last 2 workshops, how about we do another UFO? And people mailed back saying, I think we need a whole year of UFOs.
That's good.
It's nice to actually get into it because once you start, it's funny how you can pick up and you get back into sync with it. The more you push it to the side, it means another one goes on top and then you end up, it becomes, the mountain's too high.
And when you're together with other people who are also sewing, and, you kind of get into it a little bit faster.
Yeah.
And everybody will kind of try to encourage each other.
Yes.
Like we only have one rule
and that is?
You are not to give an opinion unless you've been asked.
Oh, that's a very good one.
Because we have people who are quite new to sewing and they already feeling a little bit intimidated because there's some of us, I've been sewing for 45 years, there's a couple of ladies who've been sewing for 30 years. So, we're quite experienced groups. So they feel a little bit intimidated. So we just let them be.
That's good.
And if they do get stuck, we all get in and help and, give directions and instructions. And last night at 11:50, we were having...
night?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were having a conversation with somebody who was asking whether the fabric has to be pre-washed or not.
Oh, that's a big one. You learn by not pre-washing,
Well,
don't you?
that's
And
it.
you never forget that.
But the other thing is she's making a lunchbox. So the chance of lunchbox...
It needs to be washed. That's...
Well, so we kind of... we divided in our opinions of what needs to be done. And I laughed. I said to my husband, this is crazy. It's 11:50 at night and we're talking about pre-washing fabric.
For a lunchbox.
For a lunchbox.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd only pre-washed things that could shrink, but then I was in some fabric store and they said, well, what about the chemicals? I thought the chemicals, because they always say if you're buying pillow slips, you must pre-wash before you use. And I'm thinking, well, then why would I make something without giving a little bit of a rinse, even just in the sink and put it through the spin? You don't have to wash it through the whole, because that's such a waste, especially if you buy fabric like I do. That is a few too many loads for winter.
Yes.
So, yes, I've been just dipping and spinning. And I feel better about that now, because chemicals are chemicals, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, you see, the question then becomes, you're then going to sew it. You're going to put fusing, you're going to put horsehair, you're going to put all sorts of stuff. You're not going... There's other chemicals that will get in.
That's true.
So do we completely worry about it? I mean, I understand for people who are allergic, like Susan is allergic to particular chemicals, and that's where you have to worry about it. Everybody else, I don't know if there's such a big worry.
It's, look, the sizing in it is sometimes nice to have the fabric a certain
feel
to it.
It
So
definitely
once you wash it,
is.
that goes.
Yeah, and if you're doing cottons or anything that will definitely shrink, you want to wash it.
But even if you dip it in the cold water, and you iron, it's the ironing that actually makes it shrink a little bit too.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Yeah.
So even if that's all you do is iron it.
Iron it. Well, the silk we always suggest to iron. Steam it properly.
Yeah. So steaming on top of, not putting the metal on the silk, but on top, just steaming. Or just ironing.
You can iron it.
Okay.
Yeah, but with a lots of steam, so it's get a chance, if it's going to shrink, that it does shrink.
Okay.
And you will find that different manufacturers will have a different shrinkage in silk. In cotton, it's very much standard. You know that it will shrink by that much. In silk, we're finding that some silks don't shrink at all, and some of them do shrink considerably. I would say about 2 to 3% weights.
Based on how they've finished it?
Yeah.
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 And the shrinking does make a very big difference, doesn't it?
Yes,
it's always in the wrong spot.
Yes.
And then you've got to give that garment to someone else, and that is sad.
Or invent extra panels.
Yes. But then we don't want to do that, do we? Unless we have to.
Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to.
All the dreams go to someone else's house.
I know.
Yes.
Goodness. Was there anything else you wanted to ask, Anne? Because I've just got so much out of just our little chat.
It's been fantastic. So this group of the Susan Club.
Yes. No, the couture
Melbourne Couture Group, yes.
So how did that started through?
That started through the group of people who did Susan Kalji French jacket in Melbourne.
Oh.
The first one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the first one. What happened, quite a lot of people in that group, especially Melbourne group, everybody clicked and they did not want to part.
Good.
Yes, it was. It was
that
fantastic. So then they approached me and said, look, can we get together in your studio? And that's how it started. Initially, I said, I'm not going to teach. I'm happy for you to turn up and do whatever you want. Bring your machines. I have a lot of equipment. You don't have to carry everything, but definitely your own machines, because I have pretty much all my machines industrial.
Yeah.
And they're a little bit scary. And then slowly, as people started doing more and more challenging projects, I started teaching and helping, and then the whole school grew out of it. But what was very, very useful for this group that we didn't realize that will become most important thing is fittings. Because there's somebody to do your fitting. And we have one lady coming from New Zealand, one lady coming from Adelaide, and of course Melbourne.
Yes.
We have two members in Perth, but they're ignoring it. They're not coming to us. We keep inviting
the
them.
invite's there.
Invite is there. We invite them to every meeting.
As they, they could just be passing by one day, see the light on, and in they come finally.
From Perth.
Yes.
Well, people do travel. In Australia, we do travel a lot. So
that's true.
We always say, if you are in Melbourne, let us know. We will even arrange a special catch-up.
Oh,
that's really generous.
Yeah, we caught up with few people and we would go out for dinner, or I will open up a studio for extra day if I can, if I happen to be in Melbourne. So yeah, it's okay. We have, but that group of Susan Caldu, French Jacket, that group has stayed together.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's a sub-tribe of the sewing tribe, isn't it?
It's probably his sub-tribe.
Which you need your little pockets of the people who like different things, because
that's right.
Yes.
It's hard because I'm not couture at all. I like things, I can see a very complicated thing and I like to make it as simple as possible. And I love that. But I do appreciate what you do. And oh my goodness, but I know I wouldn't last. I'd want to be wearing it like you used to when you your grandmother, and I'd be like, yes, mate, my seams are fine, but not to that degree.
Yeah, but the seams is only half of your sewing.
That's true. That's true.
It's everything else.
But that's that whole thing where you can learn and you can adapt from different areas within the sewing, which makes us still, even though all different groups, we still have that common part where we want to make something, feel good in it, and wear it.
Yeah.
And I really think that what you supply and how you treat women who are asking you to help them with that very amazing garments for weddings or just even to feel womanly, that it's such an important thing because, that is the essence of a woman. We are who we are. Sometimes it's more pronounced in others than Marilyn Monroe for another. Now, look, she really is a woman.
Yes, there's no question.
Gorgeous. Right. So having that little bit of an essence with silk and lace, but not to be too extreme with that, but still to have the subtle feeling and the vibe is just amazing.
Keep still the elegance, the delicacy of, this is, I don't know, I'm probably with Dior. Woman is like a flower.
Yes.
She's elegant, she's delicate. Let's keep to that.
Yeah, rather than being someone who's utilitarian, who's in the workforce and has to look like everyone else. And no, underneath it all, you are who you are, and that's a really good thing that you get, that you're able to create in the lingerie that you do, and also in helping facilitate the couture group as well, because you're all helping each other fit and problem solve and just have general fun in using all those techniques. Yeah, because I know that I've done a couple of Susan's classes now, and there have been times where I've had to hand sew in a sleeve. Yes. In a jacket, and I feel confident that I can do that because I've done her class, and it's turned out the fit is so much better than if I was to machine stitch it. So you'd think that seams should be machine stitched, but there are some instances where the solution is hand stitching, not machine stitching, for a better fit. So what you guys are doing here in Melbourne is it's encouraging to keep the couture sewing techniques going,
to keep the skills
going,
to spread the skills to as many people as we can, because there's people who wanted to learn those skills, and a lot of people retiring.
Too.
So
there was one lady who told me I don't know how many hours she did a bound buttonhole or embroidery. How many hours would I can't remember. There was
Chanel, the proper Chanel buttonhole, which is bound on the inside and hand stitched on the outside. I think it's about a couple of hours.
Wow.
It is.
Yeah, and you need about 5 of them just for the front.
Right. That's a very lovely finish, though.
It is,
and it's good to practice as well before you do it.
Oh yes, you definitely want to practice. You definitely want to practice. And there's the 2 samples.
Yeah. So Tatyana's showing us some samples in silk.
We'll have to take a shot of that.
Yeah, we will, and put them in the show notes and on the website.
Oh my goodness! And does it look divine?
It does.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so that's the bound one.
Wow.
And then over the top where the twit will go, there will be a hand-stitched one.
Yes.
Which I have misplaced the samples, probably together with the jacket.
Yeah.
Well, that's very impressive.
And it's good to have samples like these with you all the time because you don't do them every day and photos can help, but this is much better having it in your hands.
Having it in your hand, yeah.
Wow.
You can have another look, like you can look underneath and see what you've done, where you've trimmed. I know, we're getting technical, but it's these techniques that make couture.
Can I just say the silk feels divine?
I know.
Doesn't it?
It's awesome.
It's beautiful silk. That's for everyone at home, just to let you know that's touchy-feely and we've touched it and we can say that it's gorgeous.
So, Tatyana, thank you for taking us through your journey with silk and lace and couture and for making sure that in Melbourne, couture techniques are being used and passed on and enjoyed.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Helping the community.
Yep, helping the community. Yep, it's great. Thank you.
We're so grateful, Tatyana, for the time that you've given us today. You've given us an inspiring and compelling insight into silk, lingerie and couture sewing. Today's podcast was produced by myself, Maria, and Anne Wally. Keep listening to Sew Organised Style podcast. We've got lots of different episodes coming up. Don't keep us a secret and tell your friends. We're available on iTunes, Spotify, and all places that you can find good podcasts.